Hi friends, welcome to Raising Lifelong Learners. I'm your host, Colleen Kessler, and this is the podcast where I encourage you to trust yourself and your differently wired kiddos as you help cultivate their curiosity, encourage them to discover the world around them, embrace who they are wired to be, all while helping them discover their passions, interests, and raise them to become the amazing adults they're meant to be. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 275. Today we are talking all about connection. We've talked about connection on the podcast before. It's a topic that comes up often and is important. So we're going to revisit it later this summer in the Learners Lab, and I'll talk more about this on the episode. We will be conducting a family connection challenge with prizes and all sorts of fun activities. So I think it's super important to revisit again and again because nothing matters more in your homeschool and in your parenting than connecting with your kids and helping them feel seen, heard, and valued. And so we are going to talk all about that today. Special thanks as always to CTC Math for sponsoring this podcast season, and you'll hear more about them later on in the episode. But check them out at ctcmath.com. Let them know we sent you, and we appreciate their sponsorship. All right, let's get on with today's episode. Hey, welcome back. I'm so excited that you are here. We are going to talk today about a topic that I really feel so passionate about. I think it's so important. In fact, if you have read my book, The Homeschool Advantage, a child-focused approach to raising lifelong learners, you know that I talk all about this in a chapter entitled The Most Important Thing, because I truly believe that this is the absolute most important thing you can do for your kids, for your homeschooling, and for your family. I'm talking all about connection. Connection is the single most important thing you can prioritize in your homeschool. Not curriculum, not schedules, not checking all the boxes, not do I join a co-op, do I not join a co-op, not anything above connection. Today we're going to talk about why it matters, what it looks like even during the hard times, what it's like in real life, what we're even talking about when we talk about connection, and how to protect it even on the hard days. Now, if you've been a longtime listener of the podcast, I've talked about connection before, and I'll probably talk about connection again. It's something that I have taught about in the Learners Lab community. You're welcome to join us if you want to learn more about connection or do more activities related to it. We have a really cool family connection challenge coming up this summer. There will be prizes and challenges for families to do together. And I haven't done this challenge in a couple of years, so I'm really excited about bringing it back. But I just want to emphasize that there is nothing better that you can do for your family than prioritizing connection. Because the truth of the matter is, the world is so noisy, the world is so full. We can always find out the information that we need and learn the things that we want to learn, but we can never get back the relationships that we squander if we don't prioritize connection or that we don't prioritize. And so we want to do this when our kids are young. And we want to keep building these connections so that when our kids are ready to leave the nest, so to speak, they want to come back. They want to spend time with us as we're watching them grow into adulthood. And this is something that I've been thinking a lot about lately because, again, if you've been around for a while, you know that I have an adult son. He's the reason that we started homeschooling in the first place. And he's in and out. He lives at home still, but he is in and out with his friendships, his social life, his work life. And while I still get the benefit of being with him when I can, it's different, right? And I'm about to launch my second kiddo out into the world. She will be leaving for college sometime this August. And so lots of big changes. And I'm so grateful that over the years I've prioritized connection. Let's talk about it. Dig in, pop your earbuds in, go for a walk, whatever you need to do, grab something to drink. I've got sparkling water right here. And let's just sit, cozy up, and talk about this. Let's start with the why. Why does connection even matter? It does. The truth is, it just does. We often come to homeschooling in particular, and most of you who are listening are homeschooling families who are homeschooling neurodivergent, quirky, outside the box thinking kids. And we often come to homeschooling because the traditional school system model isn't or wasn't working. Some of our kids are anxious, some were misunderstood, or just plain miserable in the school setting. And I'll link in the show notes for this episode and post on my site an article that I wrote years ago about how we got our start homeschooling, because I like to say that I came into it kicking and screaming a little bit. It wasn't in my plan, but it was under duress and a little apprehensive. We bring our kids home and we hope that with the right curriculum or the right therapies or the right resources or the right interventions or the right routine, things are just going to click into place. And sometimes they do. Sometimes the tools that we use really work and our kids just click along, and bringing them home was all they needed. But here's the truth of the matter. No curriculum, no resources, no tools can ever work to their full potential unless your kiddo feels safe and connected. Our neurodivergent kids, especially those, with ADHD, autism, anxiety, learning differences, sensory needs, giftedness, all of the above or any combination thereof, they need a strong relational foundation before they can engage their brains in learning. Connection isn't just nice for these kids, it's necessary. It's neurologically necessary. They are hardwired. All kids are, but our neurodivergent kids especially are hardwired to have that soft place to land. When your child feels emotionally safe, seen, and soothed, they're more likely to take academic risks. They're more likely to regulate their big emotions when they feel them, communicate their needs to you, and stay open to learning. And guess what? When you prioritize connection with your kids and you help them to feel emotionally safe, seen, and soothed, you feel these things too. You're able to take risks, whether that is in how you're teaching your kids, what you're doing with them, what you're introducing them to. You're able to help them by modeling how you regulate your emotions. You're modeling how to communicate needs because you're better about communicating needs. And you're more open to learning too, and better about letting your kids know that you don't have all the answers. You don't know all the things there are to know. So this is your permission right now to put connection first in your family and in your homeschool. So what does it look like in real life, day-to-day life? What does connection actually look like? So let me start by saying this. It's not always social media worthy. You don't need daily nature walks. You don't need candlelit read alouds to build a strong bond. You don't need picture perfect play dates and field trips and craft projects. Connection is built in small, consistent moments. It can look like laughing together over silly memes. I used to joke that my big kids especially, but my oldest especially, would do what I jokingly called wake up and meme. And he would sit there with his coffee, and I'd be sitting there with my coffee, trying to become coherent because I am not a morning person. And he'd be over there laughing into his phone as he's scrolling. And then I'd get all these pings on my phone because he'd be sending me memes and different funny things that he was laughing over. That builds connection. Listening, really listening when your child tells you something that you don't quite understand or that they're really interested in, builds those small, consistent connections. This is a big one. Making eye contact and smiling when you greet them or when you talk to them. How often are we so busy in our day or with whatever it is we're doing that when our kids come to us, whether they're the big kids or the small kids, and want to tell us something, do we keep working, keep doing, keep scrolling, and only half listen? Or even if we are fully listening, it doesn't look like or feel like to them that we're fully listening, right? Because we're still engaged in whatever it was we were doing.
Hey there. Okay, you've heard me talk about CTC Math for a long time, and I've been sharing testimonials from other people about it, but I want to share my own right now because it's been a while since I've talked about how we're using CTC Math. CTC is an amazing sponsor. They support our work here at the podcast. They actually sponsor a lot of different homeschool businesses and magazines and events because they're so committed to making sure that the homeschool resources you have at your fingertips are available to you, that you have access to what you need when you need it. I love CTC Math for that part of who they are, but I also love CTC Math as a customer. I have been a paying customer for years and years. My kids are using it in very different ways, and this is what I want to talk about. I've talked before about its adaptability, but let's talk about this. I'm 16 years into homeschooling. This is my 16th year, and our kids are using it very differently. I've got one kiddo who's very advanced in math. That kiddo is a grade level and a half ahead, and I have their level set to mastery at 90%, meaning they have to get 90% or above to move on to the next set of math problems because that child doesn't have to speed through it. They're already a year and a half ahead. And so I want them, if they're going to continue to accelerate, I want them to accelerate with deep understanding. My other kiddo who's currently using it is right on grade level, maybe a couple lessons behind. And so that kiddo's mastery is set at 80% because I don't need that kiddo to understand every single section and get every single problem right. I need that kiddo to understand the big picture of the concepts, get at least a B's level of work done so that they can move on to the next level because that particular kiddo is probably not going into a mathy career, but they need the basic understanding. CTC allows the flexibility to do that. If you've got a kiddo, say in late elementary school, who is absolutely brilliant in math and can skip ahead to some high school level math, your subscription includes all the way up to calculus. You don't have to wait. You don't have to buy multiple levels of programs. If you've got a kiddo who you hit a snag and you realize, oh my gosh, we missed that section when we were learning third grade math and now we've got to go back to do it. You don't have to go out and buy a third grade math workbook. You just go to the section in the third grade math program level and have your kiddo do that. How flexible is that? You have every level from kindergarten all the way to calculus at your fingertips for a very affordable price. Check out ctcmath.com. If you go over to the show notes and you click on the link, it will give you whatever the current discount or special they're offering Raising Lifelong Learners listeners. And you can check that out and take advantage of that. I so appreciate CTC. I know you're going to love it. And if you don't, they have a money-back guarantee. So you really do have nothing to lose. If you have any questions about CTC, you can always reach out to me and I'm happy to answer those questions. All right, let's get back to today's episode.
And if we consistently do that, our kids aren't going to want to tell us things, right? They're going to assume that we don't really care because not making eye contact and not smiling translates to you're being a bother. And so we want to make sure that we stop what we're doing and we look at our kids whenever we can. And if we're in a moment where we can't, we say something like, I really want to hear this and I want to give you my full attention. Just give me a second to wrap this up and then follow through. Sometimes it looks like taking a break from a meltdown to sit down beside them and say, I'm here. You're okay. We'll figure this out together. I talk a lot about that in a couple of the worry and anxiety episodes that I've done in the past. So if that's something that you struggle with, meltdowns at home or things like that, I'll make sure I link some of those in the show notes. Connection is about tuning in. It's attunement. It's saying, I care more about you than if you finish this math program or this math page or this math lesson. Or I care more about you than finishing this game I'm playing on my phone or than seeing what the next TikTok that comes up is. Sometimes connection means taking a step back from academics altogether for a little while. Sometimes it means taking a step back from just the daily routines, letting the house go a little bit. Sometimes it means changing things up and just focusing in on your kids for a little bit, especially if things are feeling like they're starting to go off the rails. This is not failure. It's actually wisdom. When you take the time to really tune in to what your kids need and hear them, truly hear them, it's wise. It builds more than you could ever imagine getting back. If you've done this and you feel guilty about that, giving up academics for a little while, taking a break from school, focusing on just playing games or connecting, hear me out. you are doing the right thing. We can always get back the academics. And I know that this isn't always a popular take, but the truth of the matter is it takes less time to learn things in a homeschooling setting than it does in a classroom setting. So you can always get back the academics. It's a lot harder to rebuild broken relationships. So you really want to prioritize connection over anything else. So how can we do this? Especially when we have more than one or two kids. I have four, and right now all four are at home. From my 22 down to my 12-year-old. And it's hard. If you've got more than one kid, I see you. I hear you. It is a lot to manage, especially when everyone in your home has different needs and different sensitivities. I've got kids in my home. We are a hodgepodge of sensory needs and challenges and executive function struggles and neurodivergencies and all sorts of stuff. We're an alphabet soup here. And sometimes one person's sensitivities are at odds with another person's sensitivities, and one person's needs are at odds with another person's needs, and any combination of those things. We have to take into account different needs, different sensitivities, and be cognizant of the fact that in a neurodivergent home, you're going to have multiple neurodivergencies. And we just need to really think about how we can individualize the connection. Each of your kiddos needs something a little different from you. Homeschooling gives you the gift of time and the flexibility to figure those things out. I've got kids who crave touch. I've got other kids who are completely touch adverse. They don't want to be touched. And so you have to be really careful to make sure you're asking one if they want a hug and you're just offering the hugs with another one. And it's important to recognize that is worth respecting. So we need to make sure that we're really getting to know our kids. I've talked about becoming a student of your child before, and I'll talk about it again and again. Get to know who they are. Make notes if you need to, but really know who they are so each of your kids gets the things that they need from you. But we have the gift of time. We have the gift of flexibility to figure that out. Here's a practical idea for you. Take 15 minutes, maybe 20, just one-on-one with each of your kiddos a couple times a week. Call it mom time, call it you and me time, call it like a date, call it running errands with mom so I have a captive audience, whatever. Let them choose the activity. It could be running errands with you. So one of my kids loves that. Another one would rather poke his eyes out than hop in a car and run errands with me. So for that kid, you might draw together, journal together, play Minecraft or another video game side by side, play a board game, bake cookies, or just sit and talk about their favorite things. One of my kids is into a couple different anime shows, and I bet they would love to talk to me about the fandom that's surrounding that particular show. The point isn't productivity. It's not about outcome. It's about presence. Giving your kids time and really being all in on who they need you to be in that moment. When your kiddo feels really, truly known by you, they're more likely to cooperate. They're more likely to communicate, and they will trust that you're on their side and you really do have their best interests at heart. So when it comes down to some kind of conflict, like they don't want to do something that you want them to do, or they don't want to learn something that you know that they need to learn, or they don't want to build a habit that you know will be beneficial to them at some point, they're more likely to trust that you're not really just doing it or having them do it for the sake of doing it, and that it really matters. So let's talk real life. There are challenges to building connections. Connection isn't always easy. You're exhausted. I'm exhausted. Your kiddo's melting down over the seam in their socks. The dog's barking, as hopefully will be edited out of this podcast episode because we had a minute or two where the dogs were barking at just air in my house. You're behind on laundry and you're behind on math. We've all been there. I want you to remember this. What you see on social media, what you hear about on podcasts, what you see on YouTube, what you read about on blogs, what you hear about from your neighbor or your friend at co-op is a highlight reel. Most people aren't telling you all of the dips, all of the valleys. They're telling you about the hills and the mountains and the successes. That's natural. That's human nature. We really want to build up. Now, some people complain about things all the time, but most of the time, especially if you're looking to social media to give you inspiration for your homeschool, you are hearing more about the successes, or you're seeing the successes more than any of the problems. But everybody's been there. So here are a few common roadblocks when it comes to connection and some quick strategies that might help you overcome them. One is sensory overload. I don't know about you, but in my home, we are often like peopled out or sensoried out or whatever. If either you or your kiddo is overstimulated, just take a break, pause, lower the lights, step outside, get into nature, or just breathe together. Reset before you reconnect. One of the ways that we do this is we use the anxiety toolkit, which is a card deck that I created a few years ago that is designed for families who have kiddos that have anxiety or kids that worry, whether they're diagnosed or not with anxiety. And it's a deck of cards collected together by a ring and has 96 different strategies for helping combat worry. But the truth of the matter is, combating worry is just like taking a pause. When we're breaking the anxiety cycle or the spiraling that goes along with anxiety, we are breaking the negative loop by just taking a break, regrouping. And that card deck is filled with different things you can do to break that loop. You can find information about that over on my website, and I will link to it in the show notes. But the anxiety toolkit is a great tool to help with sensory overload or any other kind of brain break that you need when you just need to take a break. Reset before you reconnect. Sometimes one of the struggles that we have with connection is power struggles. And so we need as parents to take that shift from, I need you to obey and I need you to do it now, to, I want to understand what's hard for you so we can work on it. Because some of these things still need to be done, but obviously it's difficult for you. So let's figure out why it's difficult and what we can do to alleviate some of that difficulty. Let's work together to make this something that's doable. I like to say and remind myself that feelings, emotions, overload, struggles are valid. Everybody has them, everybody feels, everybody struggles sometimes. But behavior in relation to those struggles is a choice. And so we want to give our kids the tools to manage those struggles in a way that allows them to regroup and know that sometimes things need to get done even when we don't want to do them. I just went into the kitchen a few minutes before recording this podcast to see the kitchen trash strewn all over because the person in my home who is supposed to be responsible for emptying the trash can in the kitchen when it gets too high or gets full didn't, and in fact put some food laced paper towels on top of the already full and almost overflowing trash can. While I was in here working and kids were scattered all over, and when I went in the kitchen to get a drink, there was trash everywhere. So I didn't want to clean up trash that I wasn't responsible for putting in a position where the dogs could get to. But I told the person who was responsible for emptying the trash to come upstairs to empty the trash, and I would clean up what the dogs had done. But I wanted them to be more aware going forward about taking care of it when they notice that it's full instead of just continuing to push it down. Another struggle that we face when we're trying to build connection with our kids is perfectionism. I am so guilty of this. We have to, when we're perfectionistic, we have to ditch the mental image of the perfect homeschool day, the perfect homeschool life, the perfect family. Aim for connection, not perfection. A connected child can always make up on missed academics. A burnt out child, a frustrated child, an overwhelmed child, a child who's not feeling safe in their environment or their own skin can't. So we want to prioritize connection over perfection. Parental guilt is difficult to overcome sometimes too. You're going to mess up. It's okay. You're going to raise your voice. It's okay. You're going to miss cues that your kids are giving you or clues that they're giving you when they're struggling. That's okay. Repairing, apologizing for, acknowledging those missed opportunities, those raised voices, those mess ups is part of the connection process and helps your kids see that adults are not perfect. that adults mess up too, and helps them to grow into the adults that we want them to be, that will acknowledge when they make mistakes and apologize to those they care about and admit when they're wrong. So we want to model that gracefully for our kids. And messing up and acknowledging that and letting go of some of that parental guilt because we're not perfect all the time is what is going to build those relationships with our kids. Take a minute, apologize, reconnect, and then keep going. Okay, before I go any further, I just want to say this is the job. And you're doing a much more amazing job of it than you think you are. We are always so hard on ourselves. And I promise you, you are a much better parent than you give yourself credit for. Here you are listening to or watching a podcast or a video clip on social media about parenting, about getting better at parenting or homeschooling, about connecting with your kids. That's amazing. There are so many other things you could be doing with your time. You could be curled up with a book, eating candy, chilling out, going for a walk, going to bed early. But no, you're working hard to become a better parent and a better homeschool mom. That's incredible. Give yourself the credit you deserve. Let go of that guilt. So moving on from that, though, I want you to remember that is probably the most important thing you can take from this podcast episode. How do you build it in a way that's just natural? So let's talk about some practical connection kind of rituals or routines that you can weave in to your everyday homeschool life without adding more to your day. You could start the day, especially if you have young kids, with cuddle time or a check-in question. What are you excited about today? What's going on? How are you feeling? How did you sleep? Do you want to sit here and have your drink, like tea or orange juice or whatever, while I drink my coffee and we can wake up together? Start the day with some kind of cuddle and check-in. Easy peasy, works for any age kid, and goes so far in such a long way. You could also end the day with a rose and thorn ritual. This is something that we did in the Learners Lab a couple months ago when we were talking about perfection and about noticing the good in the world and improving as we went along. It was a mindset challenge. And we talked about something good and something hard from the day. And we did rosebud and thorn, but you could just do a simple rose and thorn. Tell me something great that happened today. There's your rose. Tell me something that was hard from the day that you want to improve on. There's your thorn. And so you're starting the day with cuddle and connection and check-in, and you're ending the day with the debrief that is going to let them reflect on how their day is, which is a great skill to have, reflection. Then take a post-break reconnection. After screen time or solo play or independent work time, say to them, I missed you. I got so much done. What did you get done? What were you doing when we took a break from each other? I want to hear all about it. Did you achieve anything on your game? Did you get all your work done? Do you have any questions about anything? Let me tell you what I did. Connect with them over what you did while you were taking a break from each other. Schedule connection time in. Add connection breaks to your day. Put it in your planner, just like you would math or writing. Schedule them into your week, just like you would grocery shopping and errands. Take the time by making the time. And then a really great way to build family connection, and this is one of the things that we're going to talk about when we do our family connection challenge in the Learners Lab in early summer, is have family meetings. They're not just for logistics. You can use them to listen to one another, celebrate one another, plan things together, talk about what needs to be changed in your homeschool in your home, and debrief, reflect on what's going well for the family. What are some hopes and dreams? Remember, you don't need to be available all day, every day for your kid in order to be a real, truly connected parent. But you do need to be intentionally available in small, meaningful, and consistent ways. Really important distinction. A lot of times, homeschool parents, me included, burn themselves, or in my case, myself, out by always being available to our kids. And that's just not logistically possible. We can't be on and everything all the time because it's just physically, emotionally, and mentally impossible. We need to take time for ourselves, but we also need to make sure we're intentional about the time that we do spend with our kids. So again, before we wrap this episode up, I want to remind you, You are doing so much. You are carrying so much. You are homeschooling, which is big. And you're homeschooling neurodivergent kids. You're homeschooling kids with ADHD, anxiety, they're gifted, they're twice exceptional, they have learning challenges or differences. There's so many different things going on. And it's easy, really easy, to feel like you're not enough, like you're failing your kids on the hard days, like you're failing yourself, like you're not the parent you expected yourself to be, and your kids are going to hate you. But here is what I want you to hear, and here is what I want you to remember. You are the exact parent your kiddo needs. You are the perfect parent for your perfectly imperfect kids. And just like them, you're figuring it out as you go. Because you're exactly who they need, you are exactly the teacher that they need too. You are more in tune with them than anybody. You are their biggest advocate, their biggest cheerleader, their biggest support system, and you're there for them. You are exactly who they need. Not because you always get it right, but because you're willing to keep showing up. Nobody is going to be there more for them than you are. Connection is not about being perfect. It's about being present. Your presence matters more than any curriculum you could ever buy, more than any activity you could ever get your kids involved in, more than any friend your kids will ever have, because your presence lays the foundation for their future. It's what makes your family work. It's what makes your homeschool work. So let's wrap up with this. If all you do today is connect with your child for 5 minutes even, it's a win. It's a win. You did it. You looked them in the eye, you smiled at them, you made them feel valued and valuable and like they're the only person in the world. This is the foundation that everything else in your homeschool is built on. And if you need a reminder, grab the Homeschool Advantage. There's a whole chapter about this in there. If you need a reminder, re-listen to this episode. Read the book with a cup of tea, curl up under twinkle lights, highlight the parts that feel most like home. Listen to this episode over and over again just to remind you what a great parent you are. You're not alone in this. You've got me, a whole community of parents who are choosing connection over perfection. You're welcome to join the Learners Lab anytime. We're always available and open to new members. We have new things happening every single week, and you can jump into them live or pop into all the archives of the activities that are going on. I just want you to know that you're not alone and you can reach out anytime. I'm here, the Learners Lab's here, and there are so many people on social media and in your community cheering you on. If this episode encouraged you, or if you feel like there's somebody else in your life that needs to hear this message, please share it with a friend. Leave a rating or a review, because that really helps get others to see the episode, because it pops it back up in the algorithm. And you can visit the show notes for this episode to find links to more information about connecting and all of the other things that we talked about on this episode. Remember, connection comes first, always. Have a great week. Until next time, a special thanks again to CTC Math for always being there to support us and support the message of this podcast. If you need a math curriculum, they really have your back, and they want what's best for homeschooling families too. So they're willing to work with you in whatever way you need. Check them out, ctcmath.com. Take care of yourself, take care of your kids, and keep building that connection. You've got this. I'm so proud of you. I'll be here same time, same place next week with another episode. Have a great one. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.